Hey everybody, it's Barbara, and as promised, this is my review of the Integrity Toys dolls measurements. Not the dolls themselves, they've all already been previously reviewed. I will say that this is the W Club Upgrade Poppy, the Upgrade Vanessa, and the Upgrade Emojeene. So these are all the latest run of each doll. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how posable they are. And then I'm going to take their clothes off and I'm going to talk to you about their measurements and how they differ. So if you're not a fan of doll nudity, and I know some people aren't, you might want to stop watching about halfway through, and I will warn you again when the nudity starts. But for right now, let's take a look at their posability. Alright. Okay guys, we're going to start with Poppy. And the reason that we are starting with Poppy is because she, unlike the other two dolls, has flat feet. But there is also an ankle joint. Why is this important? It's important because it means that unlike the other dolls, she's going to be able to do some very interesting poses with her feet. Namely, the first positions of ballet. So if you ever can find a pair of ballet shoes that will fit her, or hint, David, somebody decides to make Poppy a ballet costume, she would be perfect for doing her bar work. So I'm just going to very quickly show you, for those who don't know, what the first positions of ballet are. This is the first position, heel to heel. The second one would take the feet out and apart, like so. The third brings heel to heel like that. The fourth would step one foot out front. And the fifth, which is a little tricky to do with her on the stand, so I'm just going to very quickly take her off and hold her. You bring the feet together, like so, heel to toe. She's not going to quite hold it, but you could. There we go. Fifth position. Also, by the way, if you could do it, and I want to take it back to the third position here, this would be the position from which, if she was in toe shoes, she could go right up, thanks to the ankle joint, into point work. It's not as sharp as the Made to Move Barbie, who could go all the way up. In addition, now that I'm going to turn Poppy's feet forward, this Poppy can also do, and will do for us right now, a split. And as you can see, she's got the posability that she can put her hands back in front like so. Obviously, she can hold the split by herself, but to hold her hands like this, you might have to put a little sticky tape on there. Unfortunately, what Poppy cannot do, and in fact, none of them can do, the very famous praying pose from yoga. And I'm not even going to attempt it with them because I did a pre-try and it was a little dangerous. So what I am going to do is I'm going to scroll up and take a look at her arms for a minute. The arms have rotation at the hand. She can wave. Not at the wrist. The way, oh yes, at the wrist. At the wrist, wrist, elbow, elbow. They can also go all the way up, and she can put her hands on top of her head like so. So she's got maximum posability of the arms. She can bend at the knee and kneel if she was going to pray or something of that nature. She can cross her legs too. She could also, if I will quickly demonstrate, actually, she can do, ooh, wait a second. I don't want to force it, but you know what, I'm not going to force it. I don't think she can turn out in plie, and I'm not going to force it. So, she's got some poseability, probably enough for, you know, your typical poses. Can't really even have her do the twist, which is kind of sad, because she doesn't quite have that rotation at the waistline. So Poppy's got some moves, and the most impressive of which, again, are at the feet, because she has the ankle joint. But that's about it. So let's go ahead and bring in Emojeene, and we'll talk about what she can and cannot do. Imogen is a little bit different than Poppy, because she can do something very interestingly that Poppy cannot do, and that is because, as you'll see in a little bit, she's got a break in the torso that allows for movement that the Made to Moves really couldn't even do, and I'm going to demonstrate that right now. Let me bring her in a little bit closer. Again, she's got the mobility at the arm, wrist, wrist, elbow, elbow. Everybody remembers Wonder Woman, right? Wonder Woman! Well, she can twist here and here. She's got full twistability, and that is because there is a break at the hip that allows for that 90-degree turn that you just saw. It will also make it easier, as you'll see in a minute, for her to do a split. Right, you can also have her do that kind of stretch. Bend and stretch and reach for the stars. Pose the hand, so you can do that pose too. Here comes the split. Sorry for the hand, guys. Trying to take it down so you can see it. There she is in the split, which again she can hold and pose in. Unfortunately, Imogen has the ready-to-wear heel arch, which means she cannot do positions in ballet, nor can she really look like she's on point. What I believe she can do, I'm going to take it in steps. She can obviously go back with the leg extended out back. You can bend the knee toward her. And the hands will come, and she can do that stretching pose. And again, that is because of the break here that allows for that, and that extra bendability. Okay. Now that I have put Imogen through her paces, let's see what Vanessa can do. I'm starting Vanessa in the split, which you can see that she can also execute quite nicely, and rising her from it. And taking her up a bit. She can also produce the same twist that Imogen can. Poppy cannot. I think if you put her in a nice 1940s ensemble, she'd make a great Wonder Woman, wouldn't she? Do not try to butter me up, Barbara. I'm still very mad at you for putting me in Mattel. Vanessa, come on. We all gotta do something. This is art. This isn't art. This is stupid. Whatever, Vanessa. Why don't you show everybody how your arms pose? There. Are you happy now? I'm delighted. So as you can see, Vanessa has the full poseability that Imogen has, from the waist up. She has the arm poseability that all three of them have. The one thing the three of them also share, and they share in that they do not have it, even though there is the detailing of a neck joint, there is no neck joint. They don't have the ability to move their heads around too much. So this is the part where we're going to have some doll nudity as I talk about their proportions and how they differ. So if you're not into that, this is a good place to stop. Otherwise, I'm just going to take you through their measurements and how they are different from each other. Alrighty. Does anybody else want to complain about their costumes? Well, since you asked, yes, Imogen, I didn't particularly care for the Mattel clothing either. Yes, Imogen, we get it. Nobody likes Mattel except for me. Mattel rocks. Did you honestly like their clothing? Well, actually, yes, I do like their workout material. I think it's pretty good and it was easy to get on and off of you. So don't complain. Poppy, do you want to say anything? I'm cold. Oh, I'm sorry, Poppy. We'll warm you up in a second, okay? Let's just go through these measurements. Poppy, and this is not just because of how I have her positioned between the three dolls, she's actually 1/4 of an inch shorter than Vanessa and Emojeene. She is 11 inches tall, foot to the top of her skull, which I'm measuring here at the baseline of her hair. Speaking of her length, her foot is approximately 3/4 of an inch long, which is the same for the other ladies. Which means Poppy can wear their heels, but they cannot wear hers because hers are flat. She can put theirs on to go into a heel, but they can't put hers on because her feet are flat. Poppy's leg from the foot to the hip, if I should drop it a little bit, from the foot to the hip is 6.5 inches long. Her arm, like those of the other ladies, is 4 inches long. From her hip to the shoulder blade, again, the hip to the shoulder blade with no break in the middle, is 2.75 inches. This length is 2.57 inches. From the break at the top of the torso to the hip is 1.5, is an inch and a half. This is an inch and a half, and then there's an additional 1 1/4 inches to make the complete torso. If you were going to do a traditional chest measurement in proportion to the rest of her body, Poppy is a little bit bigger because she's about 5 inches, which is the same size as these two ladies, but they have a slightly longer torso, so in proportion, again, she's a bit bigger. And her face, measuring it in diameter, is 3.5 inches. Let's take a look now at Vanessa and Emojeene. Take Poppy out for a second. Even though, again, it's because of the stands and how I have them posed, putting Vanessa up front a little bit because she also has the darkest of the hair. Both Vanessa and Emojeene are 11.5 inches tall, the same length as a Barbie doll, but that's about the end of the proportions. Both ladies, at the torso, we'll work our way back down with them. At the torso, from hip to shoulder is 3 inches. From this part of the hip to the break here is 2¼ inches. So you have an additional 3/4 of an inch from here to here. So again, Poppy is that much, does have a little more. If I could bring her back in again. Oops. Poppy does have a little bit more heft to her at the chest. Visually, but also because there's a little more of a growth here than there is here. But then again, if you look, this is only 1½ inches. This is 2¼ So so what one has at the chest, the other has at the torso. Vanessa's arms, as well as Imogene's, are about 1/2 inch longer, at 4½ inches long. Stick her arm out just to, and to poor Poppy. It looks like I'm karate chopping her, but I'm really not, so I'll take it down just a little bit. Her arm is 1/2 inch longer than Poppy's. But the boob size stays the same. This is also 5 inches. But again, because of the lengthening of the torso, it looks different and the clothing is going to fit differently. Vanessa's face is 3¾ of an inch in diameter, which is an extra 1/4 inch more than Poppy's. Although it's really hard to tell because at this point Poppy's got mega hair, which is throwing off the visual. And if you remember from that story I told you about the Rockettes, hair is a good way to hide when somebody's got a height difference. And just to very quickly point this out, Vanessa's feet, like the new face feet, and like Poppy's, is 3/4 of an inch, or 0.75 inches long. And just very quickly to take a look at Emojeene. Her feet, actually, yeah, let's do this. Let's stay with them. Imogene's feet is also 3/4 of an inch. Her leg is 7 inches altogether, from foot to the hip joint. So this full length here is 7 inches. Vanessa, surprise, surprise, or perhaps not, Vanessa's going to go just a little bit more. Her leg is 7½ from foot to the hip joint. She is 7½ So she's also got a little more leg to her than Emojeene does. As you can see, both ladies do, though, have that same kind of waistline that allows for the turn. And from there, the measurements vary a little. Again, there's a variation. So let's continue to take a look now at Emojeene. Oops. Let's move Emojeene back into the center a little bit. Going now upwards from the hip to the shoulder, Emojeene is 3 inches. From the hip to the breast break is 2.75 or 2¼ inches. Now remember, Vanessa, from the hip to the shoulder was 3, so that's the same measurement. But from the hip to the breast break, she was only 2.5. So New Face has a little bit more of a break from the hip to the butt. She had her torso, excuse me, sorry. If you look, again, New Face is going to have a slightly extended actual torso. From the hip to the breast break is 2.75 or 2.75 inches. In Vanessa's case, it's 2.25. This is 2.75. So there's a longer torso. It doesn't look it, but I think that might have something to do with also the cut here at the hip. Now, I think that just about covers everything. As I said, none of them have a neck joint, which allows the neck to pivot and to bounce around. I mean, they can all turn their head slightly, but they can't actually bring the head down to the shoulder, which is also a very popular exercise. So with that, there you have the measurements of all three, and in comparison, there is some, there are things that they can share amongst themselves, but it's certainly among New Face and Fashion Royalty, perhaps more than Poppy. But they're ultimately, depending on the hook and eye and the cut of the clothing, there is some room for sharing. But if you're somebody who's looking for an OOAK piece to be made for you, you really do have to tell the person making the clothes who it's for, so they can get the detailing just right. And I hope you've enjoyed this. Look at the W Club dolls. I hope you've enjoyed this comparison of the three mainline dolls of Integrity Toys: Poppy, New Face, and the franchise, as it were, Fashion Royalty. If you'd like to see me do something else, some other kinds of measurements, compare them to somebody else, let me know in the comments box. Otherwise, I will see you guys soon, and the next reviews you're going to see from me are going to be completely different. I'm actually going to go into action figures. We're going to look at Stan Lee, for example, and that recent action figure. So, until then, enjoy yourselves and have a good week.